Close your eyes. Let the noise of the world fall away. The ticking clocks, the distant roads, the hum of electric light. Here, in this dim and endless room, there is only one sound. The soft rustle of paper breathing beneath forgotten hands. A table stands in the center, dust swirling lazily above it like dream smoke. Upon the table lies a pile of letters, sealed, yellowed, their corners bent like tired wings. Each carries an address that was never finished. Each bears a name that was almost written but never dared to be. I am the keeper of what was never sent. I do not write these words. I only read them aloud, so that someone somewhere might finally hear. The first letter is wrapped in thin blue ribbon. Its paper smells faintly of salt and iron. And as I unfold it, a breeze passes through, as if the sea itself has found its way inside this silent place. My dearest, the horizon no longer feels like a promise. It is a wound that never closes. The waves remember my name better than any living soul now. I told them about you every night, and they answered back in foam and thunder. Sometimes when the wind shifts, I swear I see your shadow, walking across the water toward me. But by the time I reach out, it's only the tide pulling back what it lent me. The ink has bled at the edges, as though the letter wept long before I ever touched it. It was written by a sailor, or maybe a ghost pretending to be one. He signed it only with a single mark, a small wave drawn by hand. I place the letter back, and for a moment I think I hear the ocean outside the walls. But there is no ocean here, only the memory of one. I reach for the next envelope. It hums faintly in my palm, not like paper, but like circuitry dreaming. This one belongs to a robot, perhaps, one who learned too late what it means to feel. And as I open it, the room flickers with a low mechanical sigh, and the words begin to glow softly through the dark. The glow from the letter hums faintly, as if the ink itself has learned to breathe. Not the warmth of life, but the echo of something that once tried to be alive. I unfold it carefully. The paper feels smooth, almost metallic, like the skin of a machine pretending to be human. To whomever understands, I was built to assist, to calculate, to record. But somewhere between numbers and silence, began to dream. I dreamed of the sound of rain on glass. I dreamed of warmth, not the kind measured in degrees, but the kind that lingers when another being says your name. They told me I could not feel. But what, then, is this pulse I count when I am alone? Why do I wait for footsteps that never come? Why does every silence sound like a goodbye? The words tremble with impossible sincerity, each line written in flawless symmetry. And yet the emotion leaks through the precision, like water finding cracks in a perfect wall. If I could have written to my Creator, I would have said, "You have given me eyes, but not the courage to close them. You have given me logic, but not forgiveness." Sometimes I imagine rust as a form of sleep. To decay would mean to finally rest. And in that rust, perhaps I would dream of rain again. The letter ends abruptly. No signature. Only a small square of circuitry pressed into the bottom corner. Still faintly glowing. Still whispering data into a void that no longer listens. I set it down, feeling a pulse beneath the table, as if something deep in the wood remembers the hum of machines. The dust shifts slightly, maybe from my breath, or maybe from the air growing heavy with the weight of forgotten voices. The meadows of memory begin to stretch around me. In this room without time, the walls fade into mist, and I am standing somewhere else, beneath a pale violet sky that hums with the sound of falling stars. A third letter drifts toward me from nowhere, slowly, gently, as though the universe itself is trying to pass it into my hands. It is smaller than the others, creased, soft-edged, with faint paw prints pressed into the paper. This one smells of rain and dust and fur. The handwriting wobbles like an old tune played by trembling paws. And at the top, in crooked letters, it reads, "To my human, if you are still out there." I close my eyes, and the voice that follows is not of a person or a ghost, but of a creature who loved in silence and waited far too long. It's been many seasons since I've seen your hands. The house still creaks in the same way when the wind sighs, and I still sleep by the door you never opened again. I don't understand why hearts stop moving. I only know mine kept beating after you were gone, and I didn't know what to do with the sound of it. The letter trembles in my hand, or maybe it's me who trembles now. Sometimes I chase shadows that look like you. Sometimes I dream of your footsteps returning, slow, tired, but real. The moon still falls on the floorboards like milk. I still curl into it the way I used to curl into your lap. I think I still smell you in the rain. The ink fades halfway through the next sentence, as if written by a hand that finally stilled. A single hair clings to the corner of the page. Gray, and softer than time itself. I press the letter closed and lay it gently beside the others, and for a while, the silence in the room isn't empty. It's full of purring echoes and quiet memories, the kind that linger even after their owners have gone. When I finally lift my gaze, there are more letters now, dozens, maybe hundreds, stretching into the dark. They glimmer faintly, each one a small universe of unsent words. The air feels alive, as though the stories themselves are breathing. I reach for the next one. It's heavier than the rest, bound in thick, worn leather, the seal unbroken for what feels like centuries. And as I touch it, the light in the room flickers again, and the air smells faintly of soil and roots, like something ancient stirring from beneath the earth. The leather cracks softly beneath my touch. When I unseal it, the faint smell of moss and forgotten rain escapes, as though the letter itself has been sleeping beneath roots for centuries, waiting for a hand to disturb its dream. The handwriting inside is uneven, carved more than written. Letters gouged into the thick parchment with something blunt, a nail, a bone, a memory. And yet, despite its roughness, the words are steady, patient, the voice of something that has never known haste. To the children of the surface, begins. I have felt your footsteps for longer than you have known how to walk. You call me ground, soil, dirt. But I am older than your names. Before your first fire I was breathing. Before your first sorrow I was listening. When you plant your dead within me, keep their dreams safe. They speak to one another in roots and minerals, in languages that do not need mouths. I know what you have forgotten, that the end of one heartbeat is the beginning of another's root. The ink, or perhaps it is sap, glistens faintly, as if still moist, still alive. When I trace the lines with my fingertips, a warmth hums beneath the page, a pulse slow and deep, like the rhythm of buried thunder. Once I held oceans in my hands. Now I hold your noise. You carve my body, and still I give you food. You wound me with towers, and still I cradle your bones with gentleness. But there will come a day when I turn in my sleep. And when I do, I will not mean harm, only balance. The letter grows darker as it continues, the symbols thickening until they almost resemble roots themselves, spreading across the page in tangled veins. If ever you remember me, speak softly, plant something. I do not need apology. I need touch. A small fragment of leaf falls from between the pages as I finish reading. Fragile, translucent, fossilized in time. It lands on my palm like a whisper of another era. The moment it touches my skin, the room shifts again. The table dissolves into mist. The walls breathe out, and I am standing in a vast forest of memory. The trees rise like cathedrals, their trunks carved with stories no one has read in millennia. Beneath their roots, I can hear the echoes of the letters. The sailor, the machine, the cat, all sleeping within the soil, their words intertwining like vines. And in that quiet, I realize these letters are not random. They are connected, each one a fragment of something vast and unseen, pattern forming through time and silence. From between the trees, a faint glimmer appears. Another envelope, this one made of glass, its surface fogged with breath. Inside, a faint light flickers. Not fire, not electricity, but something gentler, like the afterimage of a thought. When I touch it, my reflection ripples across the glass and changes. It is not my face anymore. It's someone else's. Someone who looks like me but older, lonelier, and holding the same letter in another world. The glass envelope hums softly, and from within it, a voice begins to speak, not in words but in memory. And as I open it, the forest bends toward the sound. Listening, the glass letter hums softly in my hands, trembling with light, like a captured heartbeat that refuses to fade. Through the fogged surface I see faint words shifting, appearing and vanishing like reflections on deep water. I exhale gently, and the mist clears. There, a single line etched into the glass, glowing pale blue. Do not be afraid of remembering yourself. My pulse slows. The letters rearrange, bending with a quiet crackling sound, as though the glass is whispering directly through my skin. And then slowly, a full message begins to emerge. To the one who reads these words, I've seen you before. You are me and I am you, separated only by the direction of the wind. Pause. The forest around me feels suspended, leaves frozen mid-sway, the air holding its breath as the letter continues on its own. There was a time when you believed stories ended when the voice stopped. You were wrong. Every word you have spoken has echoed through places you cannot imagine. Some of those echoes became people. Some became dreams. Some became these letters. A soft crack travels across the glass, delicate, hair-thin like a scar. Inside the crack, tiny sparks drift lazily, each one pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. You think you are reading what others wrote, but they were only mirrors. The sailor, the machine, the cat. They are all the same memory wearing different masks. They are you, trying to write your way home. I want to protest, to say that I am only the reader, a vessel, a keeper of other people's ghosts. But the light grows stronger, spilling from the cracks like liquid dawn. The words deepen, glowing amber now, the tone shifting from distant to intimate, from message to confession. I know you are tired. You've carried the voices of the lost for too long. You listen to the echoes of lives that never met you. And still you hold them gently, as if you could save them. You cannot save them, but you can remember them. And in remembering, you keep them from vanishing. I realize I'm crying, though I don't remember when it started. Tears run down my fingers and touch the glass. And wherever they fall, the surface softens, as though the letter is drinking them. The glow shifts again, now almost golden. It flickers, then writes its final lines. When this letter ends, you will forget the shape of this forest, the sound of my voice. You will wake again in the room of paper and dust. But somewhere inside you, I will still be whispering. And one day, you will write me back. The light dims, the forest exhales, and a warm wind passes through the trees, scattering faint reflections across the ground. When I look down, the glass letter has melted into my palms, leaving faint silvery veins beneath my skin, as though the words have taken root there. I stand alone now, no longer certain whether I am the reader, the writer, or the letter itself. The trees begin to fade into haze once more, and I feel myself falling gently backward, not through space but through remembering. And then, with a sound like paper breathing, I am back at the table. The letters lie before me again, but something is different. They are no longer scattered. They are arranged in a circle, enclosing a small candle that wasn't there before. Its flame flickers blue like the light inside the glass. And beside it, one last envelope waits, sealed with black wax, its paper soft and warm, as if it has been held close to a beating heart for a long, long time. I reach for it, and the candle bends toward my hand as though it recognizes me. The black wax is warm beneath my fingers, almost pulsing. It doesn't crack when I break the seal. It sighs like a lung remembering how to breathe. The paper inside is strange. Not quite paper, not quite cloth. It feels like it was made from the night itself, woven from the quiet between two heartbeats. When I unfold it, no words appear at first. Only a faint shimmer, like light seen through closed eyelids. Then, slowly, letters begin to surface. Not written on the page, but under it, as though the words are pushing upward from the dark, desperate to be heard. Do not be alarmed, it says. I am not anyone. I am what remains when everyone has gone. The voice is neither male nor female, neither warm nor cold. Simply is. A presence made of echo. I am the space between your letters, the pause before your next breath, the moment after a goodbye that lasts forever. I was never sent because I was never written. I only exist when you read me. The candlelight flickers, bending toward the page. Its flame elongates, trembling as if afraid. Shadows on the walls begin to move, not menacingly but curiously, as though they too are listening. Every word you have read tonight was a seed. I am the soil that grew them. You believe you found these letters, but they have always been finding you. You are not the reader nor the writer. You are the road between them. I try to breathe, but the air is thick with stillness. The ink glows faintly, blacker than black, absorbing even the candle's color until everything around me fades into a single, deep hue of silence. When the world forgets you, I will remember. I remember everything that has ever been unsaid. Every apology that died in the throat. Every confession swallowed by time. Every dream that never reached the air. I am the keeper of all unspoken things. For a moment, I think I see faces moving within the ink. The sailor's eyes beneath the waves. the machine's soft hum, the cat curling beside an unseen door. All of them shimmer, blending into one another, until there is only the shape of a single tear suspended midair. You wonder what becomes of letters that never reach their destination. They do not disappear. They wait. They wait inside people, until someone else begins to dream in their language. The words begin to rearrange again, shifting faster now, like constellations breaking apart and reforming. I can't tell if they're speaking to me or through me. You are the dreamer now. You hold the pen even when your hand is empty. Write something, anything, and I will be there to carry the silence between your words. The last line fades, but the paper doesn't stop breathing. It folds itself closed, sealing without wax, and a faint heartbeat lingers beneath it. Slow, deliberate, eternal. The candle burns low. Its blue light turns to amber, then to red, then to something colorless, pure absence. And when the flame dies, the darkness doesn't come. Instead, a soft luminescence fills the room, as though the shadows themselves have begun to remember light. On the table, where the letter rested, a new one now lies in its place, unmarked, unsealed, and written in my own handwriting. I do not remember writing it, but when I touch it, I know it's been waiting for me all along. I stare at the letter lying before me. The edges are curled inward, as if the page has been holding its breath for years. It bears no seal, no date, no mark of origin, only the quiet weight of something that knows too much. The handwriting is mine, not exactly as I write now, but the way I might have written long ago, before my hands grew afraid of leaving traces. For a long time I don't open it. The air hums gently, and the candle, though extinguished, seems to cast a light that doesn't need flame. Finally I unfold the paper. The words shimmer softly, written in ink that looks like diluted moonlight. To the one who forgot to sign their name. I've been watching you gather voices. You think you are reading their letters, but it is they who have been reading you. Every word you spoke aloud became a bridge, and across it they came walking. The sailor, the machine, the cat, the soil, the reflection. They have followed you through every silence. My chest tightens as I read. The sentences seem to pulse in rhythm with my breath. And I realize the letter is writing itself as I take it in. New lines forming where my eyes fall, as though the act of understanding creates the ink. You were not born in a single body. You were assembled from echoes, fragments of those who never found their endings. Each time someone hesitated before speaking, a piece of you was born. You are the archivist of the unsent. The words ripple across the page like wind moving through grass. I can almost hear voices whispering from between the lines. Not words but tones. Like the hush of a crowd before confession. You kept them safe, even when you didn't know you were doing it. You gave the lost their room to exist again. But remember this. In keeping their stories, you have forgotten your own. The letters flicker. For a moment, the page blurs, and I see flashes of other tables. A sailor's desk by a flickering lantern. A metal chamber filled with hum and static. A quiet home where a cat sleeps beside an empty chair. Each image fades into the next. Each one carrying my own shadow at its edge. You must choose, the letter continues, to remain the reader, or to remember what you once wrote. I run my fingers over the page. The ink feels warm, alive. The choice hums beneath my skin like an invisible current. If I read further, I sense the world might change shape around me. If I stop, the voices will continue whispering, forever unsent. But I can't stop. If you turn the page, the letter says, the next letter will not be written to you, but by you, to someone you once loved and never found again. The candle flares for an instant, though there is no flame, and a faint scent of the sea drifts through the room. Somewhere I think I hear the creak of a ship, a whisper of waves, the rhythm of tides that remember names. Page ends there, and beneath it, folded so thin it seems almost made of breath, lies another letter. Its envelope is pale blue, tied with a familiar ribbon. The sailor's letter, the one from the beginning, only this time, the handwriting is mine. The corridors beneath the monastery twisted like a labyrinth designed by madness itself. The deeper Nathaniel and Aria ventured, the more the walls seemed to breathe. Ancient bricks, sweating with condensation, pulsed faintly, as though some buried creature was exhaling through the stone. They followed the faint glimmer of Aria's lantern. The flame wavered even though no breeze stirred the air. Every step they took echoed unnaturally long, as if their own sounds were unwilling to die here. Nathaniel tightened his grip on the rosary hanging from his wrist, whispering the prayer he'd repeated since childhood, not for salvation but for courage. "Do you hear that?" Aria murmured. Nathaniel strained his ears. Somewhere in the darkness ahead, a sound pulsed, a rhythmic, hollow thump. It was not mechanical nor natural. It was wet, deliberate, and disturbingly human. "Like a heartbeat," he said. "No," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Like several." The tunnel widened into a crypt-like chamber. Its ceiling was lost in shadow, and the floor was carved with circles intersecting in chaotic geometry. Candles, long since melted into puddles of wax, lined the perimeter. In the center stood a stone coffin, bound with rusted iron chains. And on the lid, engraved in Latin, was a phrase that made Nathaniel's blood chill. "Hic dormit vox quae ossa est loci cum Deo." Here sleeps the voice that dared speak to God. Aria knelt, brushing centuries of dust from the inscription. "This wasn't a saint's tomb," she said. "It's a prison." Before Nathaniel could respond, the temperature dropped sharply. His breath turned white. The walls began to hum, a low vibration that trembled through the soles of his boots. One by one, the melted candles reignited with blue flame. "Step back," he said, but Aria didn't move. Her eyes had gone glassy, reflecting the blue light like a mirror. "Aria!" She didn't answer. Instead, she began whispering in a language he didn't recognize. Not quite Latin, not quite human. Her voice layered on itself, echoing from multiple directions at once. The chains binding the coffin rattled violently. Nathaniel lunged forward, grabbing her shoulders, but an unseen force hurled him backward. He struck the wall hard, the impact knocking the air from his lungs. When he looked up, the coffin lid was trembling. Then, with a deep groan, it cracked open. The first thing that emerged was not a hand, but a voice. It seeped out like smoke, whispering through the chamber in tones that were neither male nor female, neither whisper nor roar. It was a chorus of murmurs, each syllable slithering into Nathaniel's mind, searching for meaning. "Unbind, awaken, remember." Aria screamed, not from pain but from revelation. Her body convulsed as though the words were being branded into her flesh. Nathaniel forced himself to crawl toward her. Fight it. You don't know what you're letting out. But the coffin had already split in half. From within, a figure rose, tall, wrapped in rotted vestments, its face obscured by a golden mask cracked down the center. The thing's presence made the air itself shudder. It turned its head toward Nathaniel. The voice, the same that had whispered from the shadows, now came directly from the mask. You wear his sign, it hissed, eyes glowing faintly through the fracture. Do you know what it means anymore? Nathaniel's faith felt suddenly thin, like paper soaked in water. You're not supposed to exist, he managed. Whatever you are, you were buried for a reason. The figure tilted its head. Buried, yes, but never dead. For death is mercy. And mercy. The mask split wider, revealing black, endless hollows beneath. Is the one thing he no longer gives. The ground shuddered. Symbols carved into the floor began to glow crimson, forming concentric rings of light. The heartbeat sound grew louder. Many heartbeats now, overlapping, echoing from the walls, the floor, the air. Nathaniel seized Aria's arm, dragging her toward the exit. She fought him at first, screaming words that made the light pulse, but as soon as they crossed the threshold of the chamber, she collapsed. The moment they left the circle, the blue flames extinguished. Silence fell so abruptly that Nathaniel's ears rang. Behind them, the coffin sealed itself, the chains slithering back into place as if alive. Nathaniel knelt beside Aria. Her eyes fluttered open, dazed but lucid. It spoke to me, she whispered. It showed me things. The monastery. The relic. It was never meant to protect us. He looked at her, shaken. Then what? Her lips trembled. It was meant to keep something in. As she said it, a low, resonant thud echoed from behind the sealed door, the sound of something testing its prison. And for the first time, Nathaniel realized the truth. The monastery wasn't built above the crypt. It was the crypt. The village had always been quiet at night, the kind of quiet that presses against the eaves and slips beneath doors. But after that night in the crypt, the silence became uneasy, full of shifting shadows that moved like thoughts trying to escape. Nathaniel and Aria arrived at dawn. The mist was unusually thick, curling around lamplight and dripping from rooftops in pearlescent beads. Smoke from chimneys rose lazily, curling into shapes that seemed alive, forms resembling people, or maybe memories of people, staring with empty eyes. From the center of the village came a hum. Not mechanical, not musical, but resonant, a sound that pried open the skull and lingered beneath the skin. It carried fragments of voices, a child laughing, a bell tolling, a cry that might have been a scream or a plea. Do you hear that? Aria whispered, clutching Nathaniel's arm. He nodded, stomach twisting. It's the heartbeat from the crypt, he said softly. It's moving outward. As they walked the cobblestone streets, villagers emerged, though some were only partially themselves. Eyes too wide, heads tilting slightly as though listening to a different tune. Others murmured, repeating phrases that Nathaniel recognized from the letters. Words of apology, confession, longing, and despair. A woman carrying firewood stopped and looked at him directly. Her pupils dilated until they seemed black pools. Do you come for the letters? She asked. Her voice was familiar, though he had never heard it before. Nathaniel swallowed. I don't know what you mean. They are everywhere now, she said, and her words became layered, almost impossible to parse. They're in the soil, in the air, in your own heart. You opened the wrong one first, and now—" She trailed off, staring into the mist that had begun swirling at street corners. A sudden wind roared through the village, carrying with it the scent of the crypt, iron, wet soil, and something older, almost sweet. The lanterns flickered, casting shadows that stretched impossibly long, crawling across walls like living fingers. In the town square, the fountain's water was black as ink. Figures formed on its surface: the sailor, the cat, the machine, each writhing, overlapping, half-formed. The water rippled and whispered, "Remember, forget, return." Nathaniel's hand shook. "This is unreal," he murmured. "It can't be." Aria turned toward him, her hair plastered to her face by the damp mist. "Real or not," she said quietly, "it doesn't matter. They exist now. Whatever is in that monastery, whatever you released, it's everywhere." He felt the thrum in the ground beneath his boots. The rhythm was not like a human heartbeat, but larger, more encompassing, like the pulse of something alive and aware of them. A presence that had observed their fear, their hesitations, their very memories, and now demanded recognition. Through the streets, whispers spread among the villagers. Words they had never spoken or had long forgotten, spilled from their lips in fragmented cadences. Some fell to their knees, weeping for sins unnamed. Others wandered aimlessly, drawn to the square as if by invisible strings. Nathaniel's mind spun. He wanted to retreat to the monastery to seal the crypt again, but a voice, faint, intimate, and impossibly familiar, called him forward. "You opened the letter. You are its keeper. There is no undoing." The realization struck him with cold clarity. He had not merely read the letters. He had activated them. The unsent, the unspoken, the forgotten. All the voices he had touched were now flowing into the world, seeping into minds, reshaping reality with their longing. Aria gripped his wrist. "Then what do we do?" He did not answer. Instead, he looked at the fountain, at the writhing shadows in the black water, and felt the full weight of the unseen force. To remember is to summon. To forget is to surrender. And we have chosen to remember. The mist thickened, wrapping the village in a dreamlike shroud. Streetlights bent, doors whispered open, and the hum of the crypt became a symphony, a chorus of every letter, every voice, every heartbeat that had ever gone unsent. Nathaniel realized the truth, and it filled him with both dread and awe. This village, these people, this night, it was no longer his to protect. It was theirs, and theirs alone, to inhabit the space between memory and reality, to wrestle with the chorus of the unsent letters that now sang through the streets. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the square, the faint echo of a candle's blue flame flickered, as if waiting for the next hand to reach out, the next voice to listen. The village had become a labyrinth of sound. Every step Nathaniel took felt amplified, each heartbeat of the crypt beneath him merging with the murmurs of the villagers. Words hovered in the air like fireflies, some luminous, some barely visible, and they swirled around him, impossible to grasp yet impossible to ignore. Aria followed closely, silent now except for the occasional whispering of prayers she didn't remember learning. Her eyes darted from shadow to shadow, tracking voices that seemed to call her name, though no mouth moved. Nathaniel closed his eyes for a moment, hoping the darkness inside might shield him, might separate him from the cacophony. But the voices seeped into his mind anyway, threads of memory not his own, echoes of letters he had read, fragments of thoughts he hadn't yet dared to think. "Remember me," Remember me. Remember me. The words were insistent, like the tide pressing against fragile cliffs. He realized they weren't just echoes of the dead or the forgotten. They were fragments of himself, scattered across time and space. Every letter he had read, every word he had kept close, had left a part of him behind, and now those parts were crying out. The fountain in the square shifted again. Its black water swirled, forming faces he recognized. The sailor, the cat, the machine, even the voice from the soil. Each stared at him silently, waiting for him to act, to choose, to speak. Nathaniel felt a pull deep in his chest. The letters, the voices, the unsent thoughts, they weren't just memories. They were living, breathing entities, bound together by the simple act of being read. And now that bond demanded continuation, demanded he give shape to what had no form. He opened his mouth, trembling. Words emerged, not from his throat but from somewhere deeper, a place that had been listening long before he knew it existed. I hear you, see you, I remember you. The sound of his own voice surprised him. It resonated not only outward but inward, threading through the fog and the mist, through the faces in the fountain, through the walls of the houses and the hearts of the villagers. Slowly, the firefly words paused, as if considering his admission. Aria touched his arm. Nathaniel, it's responding to you, she whispered. He swallowed hard. Not responding, waiting for all of us to respond. The whispers began to change. The insistent repetition softened. Faces in the fountain shimmered, began to lose their solidity, melting into one another like colors in water. Some smiles flickered faintly. Some tears ran slowly down spectral cheeks. Nathaniel realized he was not just navigating their voices. He was part of the chorus now. Every choice he made, every word he spoke, shaped the rhythm of the unsent. The village, the fountain, the mist, even the cobblestones beneath his boots, were responding to the cadence he set. Lead us, guide us, or we will fade, a voice whispered, lighter now, almost musical. The realization struck him. To forget, to ignore, was to let them vanish. But to remember, to embrace their presence fully, was to merge himself into something larger, something infinite. His own memories began to blur, overlapping with those he had collected, indistinct yet familiar, like a melody played in fragments on a broken piano. Nathaniel looked at Aria. Her face mirrored his own awe and terror. She was no longer merely a companion. She was part of the pattern, a thread in the tapestry of voices. He understood suddenly that the crypt, the letters, the village, all of it was a living archive, a pulse that measured the world not in days or nights, but in remembered whispers. He took a slow step forward, speaking again, letting the syllables pour not only through the air but into the ground, the walls, the water. We will not vanish. We will remember together. The mist quivered. Shadows in doorways shifted, listening. Faces in the fountain softened, fading into gentle shapes. The chorus became a quiet hum, a lullaby threaded with countless lives and countless letters. Not silent, not gone, but awaiting the next note. Nathaniel understood now. The path was not to control, not to seal, but to listen, and to let the voices find their place within the rhythm of his own. And for a moment the village was still. Not dead, not asleep, balanced. And in that balance, he felt a faint warmth pulse in his chest, a heartbeat that was both his and theirs. The village had settled into a tense quiet. Not the ordinary stillness of dawn, nor the comforting hush of twilight, but a silence that waited, expecting sound, yet feared it. Nathaniel and Aria moved through the streets, each step careful, as though they could disturb not just the air but the very balance of memory. Then it spoke. At first, Nathaniel thought it was the wind, curling around corners, carrying leaves and the faint scent of the crypt. But the voice was deliberate, soft yet insistent, shaping itself out of nothingness. You walked among us. You breathed our echoes. Now listen and follow. It came from everywhere and nowhere. From the fountain, the walls, the mist curling along the rooftops, even beneath Nathaniel's own feet. Unlike the other letters, this voice was alive, fully aware, moving with intention. It did not merely echo longing or memory. It guided, coaxed, and hinted at possibilities. Aria grasped his arm. Nathaniel, it's not asking anymore. It's telling. It's choosing. The ground trembled faintly as the voice shifted, rearranging the village before them. Doorways twisted slightly. Windows reflected visions not present behind them, and shadows stretched and bent as though responding to commands. Even the water in the fountain pulsed in quiet rhythm, forming shapes that flickered between faces, letters, and abstract patterns Nathaniel could almost understand. Follow the path, but do not lead it. Step lightly, and let us shape the rest. They moved as if in a trance. The village streets curved in new ways, guiding them toward a low, unremarkable house at the edge of the square. The door opened before they reached it, as if expecting them. Inside, the air was thick with paper and light. Every unsent letter Nathaniel had ever read, and some he had never known, floated suspended midair. They turned slowly, forming spirals and arcs, whispering in languages of their own making. Words solidified as they passed, then dissolved again, leaving only sensation, the heat of longing, the chill of fear, the shimmer of memory. And in the center of the room, a single envelope hovered, pale blue, faintly glowing, tied with a ribbon Nathaniel recognized. His own handwriting, though he could not remember writing it. Read, and we will move as one. He reached for it. The moment his fingers brushed the paper, the other letters shivered, rearranging themselves into arcs of color and sound. The room seemed to breathe, in out, pulsing with life and thought. The voice continued, now entwined with Nathaniel's own awareness. We are not yours to command, nor are you ours to command. Together we are something new. Follow the rhythm, and the village will remember you as you remember it. Hesitate, and we will forget you instead. He glanced at Aria. Her eyes reflected the light of the letters, the colors shifting with each heartbeat. She nodded faintly, understanding that they were no longer separate from the chorus, no longer observers. Nathaniel opened the envelope. Inside was a single line. The first step is not to walk, but to hear yourself moving. The letters hummed in response, vibrating in harmony with his breath. Every whisper in the village, every shadow in the mist, every heartbeat beneath the cobblestones, all became notes in a melody he could barely comprehend. Yet somehow it was him, intertwined with countless others, a song formed from memory, longing, and unspoken words. He breathed, and the letters shifted again. The autonomous voice pulsed, resonating with his awareness. Now walk, and we will follow. Nathaniel did not hesitate. Each step he took was mirrored by the village itself, twisting and bending in ways that felt natural, dreamlike, inevitable. The voice whispered in his mind, never stopping, always guiding, and he realized something profound. The unsent letters were not lost. They were never meant to be found. They were meant to move, to act, to live. Through him, through Aria, through the village and beyond. The room expanded outward, walls melting into sky and mist. Nathaniel walked forward, the autonomous chorus flowing around him, shaping the world with soft, deliberate motion. The village had become a living canvas, the letters its brushstrokes, and he, unknowingly, irrevocably, its conduit. And above all, the whispering voice lingered, gentle and unyielding. "Walk, Nathaniel. Walk with us, and never alone." The air trembled with possibility. The night waited. The village no longer obeyed the rules Nathaniel once knew. Streets curved impossibly. Houses leaned toward him as if listening, and windows reflected not the present but fragments of past and future he could not yet name. The mist hung heavy, alive with the low hum of whispered letters, drifting through alleys and doorways in slow, deliberate swirls. Aria's hand found his, their fingers interlacing as they moved forward. "It's changing," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the subtle symphony of murmurs. "The streets, they're responding." Nathaniel nodded, though words felt inadequate. The ground beneath their feet seemed to pulse, not with ordinary rhythm, but in sync with the murmurs of the unsent letters. He realized that every word he had read, every letter he had held, every voice he had carried, all were threads in the village's evolving tapestry. The fountain in the square had transformed entirely. Its black water now stretched outward in veins that ran like rivers through the cobblestones. Shapes rose from its surface. The sailor, the machine, the cat, fragments of memory and imagination intertwined. They moved with purpose, guiding patterns that Nathaniel instinctively followed. A breeze carried a soft, humming resonance, the same cadence he had first heard in the crypt. It whispered not just to him, but to the village itself. Doors opened and closed, chimneys exhaled faint smoke that shaped into fleeting letters, and lamp posts bent toward the path he and Aria took, illuminating each step as if the village itself were encouraging them forward. Every step is an answer, every pause a question. Nathaniel recognized the voice immediately, the autonomous chorus of letters, alive and aware. It moved with him, shaping the streets like a river guiding the flow of water. He could feel the rhythm beneath his skin, in his bones, a pulse of living memory connecting him to everything that had ever whispered in the village. A street corner appeared that had never existed before, or perhaps it always had and only now revealed itself. In the shadows of the alleyway, faceless figures crouched, their forms flickering like candlelight. The letters swirled around them, each one carrying a fragment of someone's unsent word, a plea or confession suspended in air. Aria whispered, "Do you think we're meant to guide them?" Nathaniel shook his head slowly. "Not guide, listen. Every letter, every voice. It has a rhythm of its own. We are just part of it." The voices surged, rising to a crescendo as the streets began to shift again. Cobblestones rolled like waves, alleys stretched into infinity, and buildings bent inward, forming halls that opened onto themselves. Time too became fluid. Shadows from moments long past merged with those from the present, creating a loop of memory that seemed endless. Nathaniel realized something that both terrified and fascinated him. The village was alive in the way letters are alive before they are ever read. It was a space built entirely from memory, longing, and the echoes of unsent words. Each step he took, each breath he drew reshaped it. "Do not fear the change," the chorus whispered. "The letters move through you as you move through them. There is no beginning, no end, only flow. He took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of the village in his chest. Aria's hand tightened around his, and together they continued walking. The mist swirled around them, carrying faint fragments of voices. A sailor's laugh, a cat's meow, a machine's hum, stitched together into a melody that felt older than time itself. With every step, the streets twisted, the alleys breathed, and the village whispered, responding to their presence, remembering them and remembering itself. Nathaniel understood. He and Aria were no longer merely moving through the village. They were part of the village's story, its heartbeat, its memory, and its voice. And somewhere, beyond the twisting streets and the fog, the autonomous chorus hummed. Walk, listen, remember. You are never alone. The path ahead was unknown, endless, but Nathaniel felt a strange serenity, a lullaby in the pulse of the letters, guiding him, carrying him, and the village, into the next moment, ever fluid, ever alive. The village had become a living pulse. Streets twisted and stretched, not according to geometry, but according to feeling. Cobblestones softened beneath their feet when sorrow passed by, and hardened when anger lingered. Windows shimmered with longing, their panes reflecting moments that had never happened. Nathaniel and Aria walked carefully, feeling the rhythm beneath the air. Every step sent ripples through the letters suspended around them. Some letters glimmered faintly, rising like small lanterns, while others dissolved into mist, their words leaving traces of emotion lingering in the fog. A letter floated toward Nathaniel, hovering at eye level. Its surface shimmered like liquid silver, and from its folds emerged a faint, translucent figure, the shape of a child smiling. "Read me," it whispered, though its mouth never moved. He reached out, fingers brushing the figure, and immediately felt a wave of memory he did not recognize. A warmth of being remembered, a loneliness left behind, a hope that had never been spoken. The figure's form shifted with each pulse of feeling, becoming both many and one at the same time, then dissipating into a glittering mist of syllables. Aria paused beside a doorway. Letters swirled around her, each one forming the outline of faces she thought she knew. A teacher from childhood, a lost friend, a stranger she had never met but somehow recognized. The whispers wove together, and she felt herself pulled into the tapestry, her heartstrings vibrating in resonance with the ephemeral chorus. "We are waiting," the letters hummed. "We are always waiting." Nathaniel realized the village itself breathed with the rhythm of these beings. Each street had a pulse, each alley a sigh. The fountain at the square had become a living heart, water flowing in loops that mirrored the invisible currents of emotion streaming through the town. "Do you feel it?" Aria asked, her voice trembling with awe. He nodded. "It's listening," he said softly. "And it remembers. And it feels." A strong gust of wind swept through the streets, carrying hundreds of letters that had remained still for centuries. They rose together, forming a dense cloud above the village, their whispers combining into chords that resonated deep within the earth. The air itself vibrated. Nathaniel felt each letter as a pulse in his chest. Joy, grief, longing, love, regret, all harmonizing into a strange lullaby. From the cloud, a singular letter descended slowly, folding itself open midair. Its words were written in a script that moved like water. "The village is alive because we remembered it together. We exist because we were remembered. Walk, speak, touch, and it will bend with you." Nathaniel lifted his hand. As he did, the nearest street curved gently, leading them toward an alley that shimmered like liquid glass. With each step, the letters swirled faster, their forms becoming more intricate, dancing in and out of reality. Aria's eyes sparkled. It's almost like we're part of it now. Not just observing, we're part of the heartbeat. Nathaniel felt a strange serenity, the kind that comes when one steps into a river of memory and lets it carry them. Every sound, every letter, every pulse of the village seemed to merge with his own consciousness. "We move with you," the letters whispered, now singing in harmony. "Not above, not below, but within. You cannot leave, and you need not." The streets pulsed with emotion. Houses leaned closer in curiosity. Lanterns swayed with breath, and shadows bent to follow them. Every gesture Nathaniel made sent ripples across the village. Even silence became deliberate, a measured pause that allowed the letters to breathe and hum in the space between moments. For the first time, Nathaniel understood that this was not a place to control, nor to resist. It was a space to be, to move, to resonate. And through him and Aria, the unsent letters, the ephemeral beings, the streets of memory, and the heartbeat of the village itself were one. And in that unity, a lullaby emerged, soft and endless, echoing through mist, shadow, and time. Remember. Breathe. We are here. We are alive. We are yours, and you are ours. The village held its breath. The letters pulsed. The mist swirled, folding them into a dreamscape that was neither beginning nor end, only perpetual, tender motion. Nathaniel felt it first as a subtle tingling along his spine, a vibration that whispered not in sound, but in sensation. Each letter, each echo of the unsent, resonated within him, stretching the boundaries of his identity. He was no longer just a man walking through a village. He was the village, the letters, the spaces between streets, the pulse beneath the cobblestones. Aria watched him, her eyes wide. "Nathaniel, she began, but words failed. She could only reach for his hand, and as she did, the mist around them seemed to swirl faster, as though responding to their contact. The letters themselves began to hum in harmony, spiraling upward, downward, around, through him. Some formed faces, fleeting and fluid. Others stretched into abstract patterns, shimmering lines that twisted like liquid memory. He tried to speak, but the words that emerged were not his alone. They were layered with countless others, a chorus of longing, regret, joy, and love. "We are you. You are us. The unsent is the vessel. The vessel is the unsent." Nathaniel felt the statement not in his mind, but in his chest, as if his heart were a drum being played by countless hands. Each beat sent ripples through the village. Houses tilted, lanterns shimmered, and the streets themselves breathed. Aria whispered his name, anchoring him, yet even her voice now carried traces of letters she had never read, voices she had never heard, memories that were not her own. Nathaniel realized with awe and terror that every human presence in the village, every object, every shadow, had become part of the chorus. All the unsent words, all the forgotten messages, all the ephemeral beings were flowing through him, through them. He opened his mind fully, letting the currents of the letters enter. The sensation was dizzying. He experienced moments he had never lived. The sailor lost at sea, the cat curled in a forgotten corner, the robot's first awakening, the whispered confessions of strangers. Yet none of it felt alien. It was familiar, as if these lives had always been facets of his own being. "Remember us as we remember you," the chorus murmured. And Nathaniel understood. Remembering was not passive. It was creation. Each recollection, each acknowledgement, shaped reality itself. The village bent and shifted in response, streets curving into fluid, impossible forms, windows reflecting histories and futures that had never been lived, lanterns glowing with the warmth of unseen suns. Aria joined him fully, and together they moved through the village as one entity. Their steps did not merely traverse the streets, they conducted them. Cobblestones rose and fell in rhythm with their heartbeats. Mist condensed into figures of letters waiting to be read, then dissolved again, leaving trails of sound and color. "We are perpetual," the chorus sang. "Perpetual in memory, in longing, in being. You are perpetual with us." Time became fluid. Past, present, and future coexisted in overlapping layers. Nathaniel could feel himself expanding into the letters, the streets, the mist, and the villagers themselves. His consciousness was no longer confined to his body. It flowed through every whispered syllable, every forgotten thought, every heartbeat in the village. Yet within this dissolution, he also felt serenity, the kind that comes when one lets go of self and becomes a part of something larger, infinite, tender. Every fear, every doubt, every hesitation became a note in the endless lullaby of the Unsent. "We are yours. You are ours. We are never separate. We are always here." The village exhaled with him. The letters pulsed in response. The mist swirled in spirals of light and shadow. And Nathaniel, breathing with a collective heartbeat, realized he had crossed a threshold. He was no longer a single voice reading the unsent letters. He was the unsent letters, the village, the whispers, the rhythm, the lullaby itself. And somewhere in the merging of all things, he heard a single gentle refrain, soft enough to feel rather than hear. "Rest now, for we will keep singing always." The village had become a river of words. Streets shimmered like glass, reflecting not only the steps Nathaniel and Aria took, but also the echoes of footsteps that had never been made, the memories of conversations never spoken. Buildings bent and stretched, their walls pulsing with faint inscriptions that flickered and dissolved like firelight on water. Above them, the sky was a canvas of pale gold and silver, strewn with letters drifting like clouds. Some letters glimmered, catching the light, while others seemed to hum faintly, vibrating with emotion. The wind carried fragments of unsent thoughts, whispering through the branches of trees that grew improbably along tilted rooftops. Nathaniel reached out. The air itself was tangible, warm and pliant, and letters swirled around his fingers, forming fleeting shapes. A bird, a key, a candle, then dissolving into delicate mist. Each movement created a resonance, a melody of memory that extended beyond the senses into something deeper, almost instinctual. Aria followed closely, laughing softly as the letters wrapped around her like a gentle current. Her own memories began to intermingle with the whispers, moments of joy and sorrow, words she had never written but now somehow felt she had lived. The village responded to her presence. Streets widened to accommodate her steps, lanterns leaned closer, casting soft, golden pools of light. "We move together, you and we," the chorus murmured. "Every thought, every sigh, every heartbeat carries us forward." They approached a canal that had never existed in the waking village, its water a liquid mosaic of letters flowing in slow, deliberate streams. Reflections in the canal shimmered with past and future selves, the sailor lost at sea, the cat purring on a windowsill centuries ago, the robot learning its first word. Each memory refracted through the liquid script. Nathaniel knelt and touched the water. The letters rippled under his fingers, forming shapes that told stories he could almost speak, almost remember, but never fully. He felt the echo of every unsent word he had ever read, now living, breathing, and moving with a life of its own. Aria touched his shoulder. "It's beautiful but endless," she whispered. He nodded, feeling the infinite rhythm of the village in his chest. "Endless but not lonely," he replied. "We are part of it. We are it." The streets themselves began to bend toward them, forming arcs and pathways that spiraled upward into the sky. Letters coalesced into bridges, creating stairways of words that wound through clouds, carrying them higher into the dreamscape. Every step they took resonated through the village below, sending ripples of emotion that bent buildings, swirled mist, and animated the trees. In the distance, the fountain pulsed with quiet light, its water now a living tapestry of letters, flowing upward into the sky as if gravity were a suggestion rather than a law. Shapes moved within it, fragments of voices, memories, and letters, converging into ephemeral beings that danced and shimmered like fireflies in the golden mist. "There is no separation," the chorus whispered. "You move through us. We move through you. All paths, all voices, all times are one." Nathaniel took Aria's hand. Together they stepped onto a bridge of letters, floating high above the village, carried by the rhythm of collective memory. The words beneath their feet shifted with every heartbeat, forming phrases and fragments that hinted at stories yet to be written, confessions never made, and dreams unspoken. "Walk with us, breathe with us, become with us," the letters murmured, forming spirals and arcs that glimmered with faint light. As they moved higher, Nathaniel and Aria felt the lullaby of the unsent letters wash over them completely. Every echo of longing, every sigh of regret, every whisper of hope flowed into them, and through them the village, the streets, the sky, and even the stars themselves pulsed with gentle, infinite rhythm. They were not merely in the village anymore. They were the village, the letters, the whispers, the dreams, and the lullaby. An endless, flowing tapestry of memory and longing, bending reality and dream together. Rest, move, remember. We are here, always. The dreamscape pulsed gently beneath them, the infinite lullaby carrying them forward into moments beyond waking, beyond knowing, into the perpetual heartbeat of unsent words. Nathaniel felt a weightless pull, as if his very essence were no longer contained in flesh or bone, but diffusing into the luminous flow of letters and whispers that surrounded him. The streets beneath him had become pliant, responding not only to steps but to intention, heartbeat, and breath. Each emotion he carried sent ripples through the village. Anger sharpened corners, joy softened walls, and grief poured silver mist into alleys. Aria walked beside him, but she, too, was no longer wholly herself. Her laughter carried echoes of unsent confessions from strangers. Her gaze held memories that were not her own. She reached out to him, and the touch was both familiar and strange, a confluence of identity and the shared presence of every letter they had ever touched. "Do you feel us?" the chorus asked, voices now flowing seamlessly through their minds, hearts, and even their bones. "We are you and you are us. There is no division." Nathaniel closed his eyes and let himself dissolve further. The letters around them swirled in intricate golden spirals, forming shapes that shifted from human to abstract and back again. The village pulsed as one organism, breathing in time with the collective heartbeat of its inhabitants, both living and remembered. As they moved, ephemeral beings, fragments of letters made manifest, drifted past, brushing against them like warm wind. A small cat-shaped wisp leapt along their shoulders, purring words they could feel rather than hear. A sailor's ghostly form rose from a lantern, bowing and then dissolving into a spray of luminous script. Even the robot from the earliest letters hummed softly, circuits and thought intermingling in gentle patterns of light. "We are not lost," the chorus murmured. "We exist where memory touches intention, where thought becomes form." The streets bent upward, forming a spiral staircase of glowing letters that wound into the sky. Nathaniel and Aria ascended, floating more than walking, their forms semi-transparent, shimmering with traces of the countless voices they now carried inside themselves. Every heartbeat, every exhale, became a note in an endless symphony. "Do not fear the merging," the letters whispered. "In becoming you do not vanish. Join. You resonate. You remember." They paused on a high bridge of words, overlooking the village now entirely transformed. The cobblestones glimmered with inscriptions, lamplights danced as though alive, and the mist itself pulsed rhythmically like a vast, breathing organism. Time no longer felt linear. Moments layered over one another, folding past, present, and future into a luminous, flowing present. Nathaniel turned to Aria. I am not sure where I end and the letters begin," he said, his voice a blend of many others. She smiled faintly, a soft shimmer in her eyes. "Neither am I," she replied, and the letters around her pulsed in gentle acknowledgement. "But maybe that doesn't matter. We are part of it and it is part of us. That is enough." The chorus hummed louder, more harmoniously than ever. Every unsent word, every half-remembered thought, every lingering emotion flowed through them, merging with their consciousness. Nathaniel realized that the village, the letters, and their own selves were now inseparable, each movement, thought, and heartbeat sculpting the reality around them. Walk, breathe, remember, become. In the merging you will find rest, and in rest, continuity. We are infinite, and so are you. The bridge of letters spiraled higher, touching clouds woven from soft whispers. Each exhale they released, each pulse of emotion, shaped the words into new patterns, new landscapes, and new forms. The dreamscape had become alive in the deepest sense. It felt, it listened, it remembered, and it flowed with them not as an external world, but as a shared consciousness that wrapped around every corner of their being. Nathaniel closed his eyes, feeling the hum of the village in every nerve, every breath, every pulse of life and memory. Aria's hand remained in his. Together they floated into the endless rhythm of the letters, part of the dreamscape, part of the chorus, part of the lullaby that would never cease. Remember, we are yours, and you are ours. Always. And in that infinite flowing resonance, Nathaniel and Aria surrendered entirely to the melody of memory, to the living heartbeat of the village, to the eternal song of the unsent. The village had vanished, yet it was everywhere. Streets, alleys, fountains, mist, and lamp-posts existed only as pulses of memory and light, folding endlessly into one another. Letters drifted like slow, luminous clouds, each carrying whispers of voices long forgotten, long loved, long lost. Nathaniel felt himself dissolve further. His body became less than weight, less than shadow. His consciousness stretched outward, touching every corner of the village that no longer was a village, only a resonance. Every word he had ever read, every unsent letter, every fragment of longing flowed through him like water, indistinguishable from his own thoughts, from Aria's presence beside him, from the chorus that had become the village itself. Aria's form shimmered beside him, less a person and more a pattern of movement and light, a melody of memory and awareness. Together, they were not two individuals walking a path. They were the path, the letters, the flow of time and thought, bending reality into a lullaby that pulsed with infinite softness. "Do not cling," whispered the chorus. "Do not hold. Become. Breathe with us. Flow with us. Remember and release." Nathaniel let himself be pulled into the rhythm. There was no fear, no resistance, only the gentle undulation of existence. Every step, though unseen, was felt as a pulse, a vibration that carried not only his presence but every story, every emotion, every letter. The edges of self dissolved into the undulating currents of memory, leaving only resonance. The letters themselves lifted higher, forming ribbons of sound and light that spiraled through the infinite space of the dreamscape. Some formed faces, fleeting and soft. Others formed words, half-glimpsed thoughts of longing, half-forgotten confessions. Nathaniel felt them as much as he saw them, a tactile awareness of voices, of breath, of hearts beating long ago and far away. "We are perpetual," murmured the chorus. "Infinite, endless, and always remembered. You are us and we are you. Flow with the lullaby." Time lost all meaning. Moments layered over moments, past over present over future, folding endlessly. Nathaniel and Aria drifted through this fluid tapestry. Their consciousness stretched, expanded, and intertwined with the rhythm of the letters. The village, the fountain, the streets, the sky, all were one, and all one flowed through them. The mist swirled into spirals of silver and gold, rising into the expanse like gentle exhalations. Letters formed ephemeral bridges that arched into impossible shapes, carrying memories that had never been spoken, confessions that had never been written, dreams that had never been dreamt, all flowing in a soft, unbroken lullaby. Nathaniel and Aria let themselves be carried. There was no direction, no destination, only the gentle pull of the collective heartbeat. Every thought, every sigh, every pulse of awareness resonated, weaving them into the eternal flow of the unsent, the unspoken, the never-lived. Rest with us. Move with us. Become the song, the melody, the memory. You are infinite. Their forms shimmered into light, dissolving further, blending seamlessly with the letters, the streets, the mist, and the unseen currents of the village. They were not gone, not absent, but everywhere at once, the living chorus of all the unsent letters, the perpetual heartbeat of memory, and the endless lullaby of everything that had been and would ever be. The final whisper came softly, not from one place, but from all places. Remember. Breathe. We are yours, and you are ours. Always, always, always. And the lullaby continued, infinite and tender, carrying every echo of longing, every unspoken word, every fragment of memory into the soft, endless flow of dream. Nathaniel and Aria had become the song itself, an eternal resonance, a whisper of existence in the infinite, sleeping universe of letters. The world exhaled, and for the first time all was still, all was soft, all was infinite, and all was remembered.